Well, hi, everyone. Hey, thanks for joining me today on my Central Coast Market Update podcast. Be sure you like and subscribe so that you can get reminded of the latest episodes. I think the next one you'll really find interesting on our insurance gal. She's going to come and do a podcast with me with pertinent questions. So be sure you do that. Thank you again for joining me today. So listen, today I wanted to talk to you about what it means to list and sell your home. Well, first and foremost, where do you start, right? You start with you want an experienced full-time real estate agent to help you and advise you through the process. 85 to 90% of homeowners, buyers, people that are ready to list or sell their properties are looking to their trusted friends, family, colleagues to find a realtor. So when you find the right real estate agent, wink, wink, that would be me, we would sit down and we'll start the process. So let's say you call me, you say, Cindy, I want to list my house for sale. What do we do from here? First of all, I'm going to get a lot of information from you on your property so that I can research what the tax records say, look at what they've got there. We want that all to be right. It's not always right and correct. I look at that. I then come to your home and we sit down and we go over. You give me the tour of your home. I make notes and I ask you, okay, what have you done since you've lived here for improvements, updates? That would be your typical listing appointment with me as we talk about your home. You might be the trustee, the executor, selling your mom and dad's home, grandpa and grandma's home. So you may not know all those things that have been done, and it may just be what you see is what you get. And then you're going to ask me maybe some things that could be done at the home. But initially, we're going to sit down. Okay, what are the improvements you made? What have you done to the home? So that I can compare it with the other homes that have sold or are in escrow in your area. That's how we're going to get to value, which a lot of you have asked me, how do you come up with that value? What do you look at? Well, let's say you have done some improvements. Say you've done a little bit of a remodel in the primary bathroom and bedroom and maybe in the kitchen. Maybe a house that sold in your neighborhood didn't do those things. So we're going to add and subtract with what sold similar to your house. Now, that can be a real tough thing to do sometimes because here on the Central Coast, we have such a small area and the listings are few and far between, but they're also no two properties are alike, unless you get into some of these older subdivisions where you have 3 or 4 floor plans. But most of the time, no two properties are alike. So you just have to plus and minus and look. That is my job, to look in your specific neighborhood and see, okay, what sold, where are we going to get the value here, and sit down and compute all of that. What I do when I come to sit down and speak with you as well is I'm bringing you what's called a market analysis, comparative market analysis. I have brought up, like I said, everything that's sold in your neighborhood, comparable as much as possible. The things that are active on the market, we can see how long they've stayed on the market and compare them to yours so that we can come together and see about a range. I usually give you a range of from here to here is where I think your home will sell. And we go from there on where we want to list it, the price we want to list it. Again, staying within the comparables in your neighborhood as much as possible. I bring that to your home. I also bring you my listing presentation, which is going to tell you all of the duties, all the things I do when I list a property. There's marketing, there's, social media, there's all those things that we go to in great detail when we sit down to list your property. So we come up with a value that way. I take all the information you've given me after we've sat down, and I look at the market and we sit back down and say, okay, here's the value, here's the range, and we go from there. So when we're discussing your home, like for instance, if you're the trustee or executor of mom and dad's or grandma and grandpa's house, then you are probably going to be talking about an as-is sale. And I have a lot of folks ask me about as-is. So as-is is implied in any listing that's on the market. What that means is there's no expectation that the owner of that home, you as the owner, are going to do anything. So that's kind of what we're looking at when we come to that part of the valuation of what type of a seller are you, what kind of a property do you have, and where does your value go in between those comparables that are out there on the market now. So Now I want to talk to you about a return on investment and what that means. So you're going to say, well, Cindy, what are the things I could do to the house to make either a curb appeal? Maybe if I want to do some kind of a renovation here, what, the cost? You do have to look at your budget. We're going to sit down and go, okay, what's your budget? What do you want to spend, if anything, on your home? And the return on investment, you'll see these numbers and it's really kind of interesting. So a front door, when you change your front door, if we're going to talk about curb appeal, you get 100% of that rate on 100% of that back when you're changing the front door. Isn't that wild? I mean, curb appeal is one of the most important things when you're talking about selling a home. Now, I'm going to talk specifically about turnkey, making a property more turnkey. The properties that need a little more work are a little bit different. So on a turnkey property, you say, well, I'm going to change the front door. 100% return on your investment. When you add square footage, you definitely get 50% to 60% back. You might be interested to know that a full-on kitchen remodel and refresh both amount to the same kind of rate, return on investment, which is about 60% or so. And of course, when you do bathroom remodels, those are 70%. When you replace windows or a new roof or something like that, if it needs it, if you think that's the route you want to go, those are in the 75% return on investment. So there's different things that you can get that investment back on, but you just want to look at what's my budget, because sometimes you start with something and it's like, where do I stop? I would stick with the windows if that's financially savvy for you to do. A refresh in your home, or maybe if you've already started a renovation, then you go that route for your return on investment. Staging is another thing in homes. Light staging really helps. Full on paying for staging, it's 50-50 on that. Sometimes that may or may not help a house sell faster or not. I've seen it on both sides of the fence. Now we have the AI staging, and we do have to be specific when we get your marketing out there for your home that we have used AI in the bedrooms, getting the furniture in. There's different programs people can play with too, if your house is vacant and you've moved out. Some light staging is always nice, and you don't have to go full on the pain of a stager to do that. So that keeps the cost down. That's another thing when you go to list your home that we talk about. Budget, let's keep costs down. The more in your pocket is where we're going with that, and trying to get you as a seller as much in your pocket. Now, when you look at it from a buyer standpoint and you're going to purchase a home, it's important to look at those things that a seller did. Hey, they put, 60, 70,000 into a kitchen remodel. That added value to the home. Any of these things that you do are going to add value to the home when you're looking at windows, updating, upgrading, remodeling. So on the buyer's end, you're going to bring more people into, quote, a turnkey property where things are done and the buyer doesn't have to do much. And a buyer will appreciate that, given what your value is. Going back for a second, you do want to list your property at a good price. You're not going to undersell it. You don't want to list it too high. The turnkey properties listed correctly and in a good location are selling quicker than the other properties. What do they say? Location, number one. There's also price point, and there's also condition. Those are the three main things, whether a property will sell quickly, linger on the market or not. And of course, other factors of what economics are doing, etc. We're just talking about getting your home sold and listed. So the marketing part of it, social media, Instagram, and those things that I use a program called F12 Marketing. And I have my own person that works on those social media reels, social media posts, all over where people are looking for property. And so I'll do a reel that shows your some highlights of your home and in and out with photos. I'll do a post that has photos of your home and where it is and some drone shots. Those are the social media aspects that I like to use on Instagram, Facebook, and all that good stuff. So when I use AI for staging purposes, that comes into play on a lot of that social media stuff, but we also can put in, okay, here's the furniture, here's this aspect. And then also, if it would work, sometimes it looks funky when you try to maybe erase something that you didn't expect to be in the picture, like, oh, I left that box. We can erase that. Removing objects like that to make a room look better, or even at the exterior, is not as something that you have to really talk about, as opposed to on the marketing, as opposed to if your house is completely vacant and we're staging it AI for all the furniture and what it could look like. Removing certain objects to make things look better, that's not the biggest issue. It's adding furniture where there isn't furniture. Just, you don't want buyers to come in to your home and be surprised. Okay. We want to present your home like it looks and not like it doesn't look. If they come in, oh, well, there's no furniture and you haven't said anything, that's big trouble, right? You also want people to come in and look at the space your house has. Again, for staging, for showings, you want minimal, right? Minimal photos on the wall, minimal furniture, so people appreciate the space and what your home has to offer. That's really important when you're looking for buyers to come into your home. So those are a lot of the things. We sit down, there's a lot going on there, I know, but those are the things that I bring to the table when I want to list your property for sale and get all the information correct from you. One of the things that you're hearing, and I get asked a lot, rightfully so, is the compensation to the brokerages and how that works. It can be confusing, and it's at the forefront of conversation now, given that the National Association of Realtors was sued because you had agents sitting down telling buyers and sellers, this is what you have to pay, this is what I charge. Commissions, compensation is always negotiable. Now, the new rules that affect that are, if you're someone selling your home, you and I are going to sit down and we're only going to talk about what on that selling side, paying my brokerage to list your home. We're only going to talk about that side. For instance, it was typically like, let's say, a 5% commission compensation. And that was typically split evenly between the two brokerages right off the top. There was no discussion. Now, because agents were not talking about commissions being negotiable, now I'm only talking to you as a listing agent about what you're going to pay my brokerage to list your home. A buyer is going to go, if I'm representing a buyer, you as a buyer, you and I are going to talk about what the compensation is to my brokerage representing you as a buyer. What that means is, typically a buyer, this is good for both you buyer and seller to hear, buyers have enough money for their down payment, they have enough money to pay their closing costs, but they aren't typically going to have enough to pay their agent representing them. So it was like that before. There really was no discussion. You, the seller, were paying both brokerages. Now the buyer's going to ask you to pay their agent and their brokerage for representation. So there's a lot. It's individual. It's an individual entity. As we see multiple offers come on some of these properties where you'll see 5 or 6 offers, there will be different ways a buyer can pay that compensation. More than likely, they will ask you, the seller, but lenders, if you go back and listen to my podcast with Zoe Rathel, the lender, there are different programs to help buyers pay their agent if that becomes an issue for a seller. So lot of information there. You can certainly call. We can have discussions and set you up with Zoe Rathel, because she has a lot of the programs that are helping buyers with that particular entity. So that is, in a nutshell, what we're talking about with listing and selling a home, right? You sit down with the right realtor, myself, and you go through all the things about you that you've done to your home. We talk about curb appeal. We talk about what you could do to spruce up or have your home sell and look the best it can look. We talk about what type of seller you are, trustee, executor. Maybe it's an older home and you're not going to do anything, which is fine. All this information is based on your budget, what type of property you have, and that is going to come down to where your value and listing price is going to end up and what you eventually sell for. So I hope you found this information good and interesting and helpful. So like I said, I'm going to sit down with Hope Cornejo, a local insurance lady. some good questions and good content there that I think is going to answer a lot of questions for a lot of us. So thank you again for joining me on my podcast, Central Coast Market Update. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you get reminded of the latest and greatest episode, okay? All right. Thank you all. Really appreciate it. See you next time.